start from the beginning. For a lot of people that don't know who you are, how did you find Family First Life? Were you in insurance before? Is this your intro to insurance? Give us a little black backdrop.
Yeah, so I was actually just talking to a recruiter right before this, but basically, I got my license back in 2019. I was working for another insurance company. I actually just got married that year. I started at the insurance company while working door-to-door sales, and basically, I was working two jobs, and they basically started off at 45% comp. Actually, with Caleb Amaros, he started at this company too. So he brought it up to me. He was working with the company I was at before, and he's like, "Hey, this insurance company, you're at 45% comp versus where I was at. I was at like 7-8% with my sales, but I had a base and all that, and I was like 45% based off of what I'm doing within production. I mean, that sounds like absolutely amazing, right?" So I started, and basically, they also told me I was going to get a salary too. So that was pretty amazing to say, like, "Hey, I'm $1,200 salary for the first 3 weeks of training until you start going out into the field, blah, blah, blah." And obviously the salary didn't happen. Also, in addition, the comp level, first sale I got was at 35% comp. So that left a really bad taste in my mouth. I was like, "You told me 45% comp. Why am I getting paid 35, right?" So I actually quit that company. And I literally, I remember calling up the guy that had a McLaren, making 60% off of every sale that I made. And I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm like going like I'm nice. I don't like burning bridges, right?" So I'm like going and explaining to him, "Hey, I'm going to have to make another move. I talked to a lot of people," and he's like, he stopped me and he stopped in my tracks. He's like, Sam. He's like, "Are you ever going to quit or what?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, good luck," and hung up on me. And I'm like, "I just got married. You lied to me left and right, all these different things. And like to treat me like that." I was like shaking. I'm like, this is so frustrating, right? So I actually finished that insurance company.
Yes, New York life is.
Hey, Alma, can you mute? Can you mute out?
So basically, I finished that insurance company. I said, like, "Hey, I'm never doing life insurance again," right? Obviously, the rest is history. But basically, Caleb actually came to this company, FFL, and he told me, "Hey, 100% comp." And I was like, that does not make any sense. Like, how can you give away 100% of what you're making? Obviously, now understanding insurance companies make money long term, it made sense. And moving forward from there, and at that point in time, I've done over 480,000 since April 30th of last year. So it's been an exciting run. Been able to learn a crazy ton, not only personal production but also just business and so many other things. But yeah.
So before we jump into your transition in personal production, I think one of the things that often gets overlooked is communication. You just got married. Obviously, this commands a lot of your time, effort, and energy. What did those conversations sound like as you prepped your wife for insurance, and how did you kind of set the table for that so that she wasn't pulling on you every 20 minutes or every evening at 6:30, like, "Are you here yet? Like, when are you going to be here?"
Right. So I think one thing was, with the company I was working at, it was obviously corporate. A lot of guys actually over on our team worked at the same company. And basically, I knew there was no future there. I knew, like, because they've made a manager position options. Like, "Hey, you can become a manager over here. And I was like, I mean, what is it, like 50, 60, $70,000 a year? I'm like, with all that obligation, and I saw my manager where I was working at, I was like, this isn't something that I see a future for myself, right? So when I started FFL, well, first off, when I started insurance in general back in 2019, I was working, I don't know how many hours a week, but I was working a crazy ton of hours a week. And we just got married. And I remember my wife just getting very, very upset because I wasn't able to be with her. And we just got married and I was working so much, whatever. And so when I quit that company, I kind of, obviously I opened up a lot on my plate, but I made the move in FFL, and it was pretty cut and dry. Like, this is something that the future is there. So I'm a very big believer on quality versus quantity. So it's not like I have to spend hours upon hours with my wife. I'm more so, if I'm with my wife, I'm very productive and very effective with kind of what I'm trying to do and how I'm communicating with her, just quality time, and identifying like, hey, we got X amount of time here before I got to leave, right? I'm leaving for a travel trip tomorrow morning. And so I'm going to spend some time with her this evening to again, obviously keep that effectiveness, but then quality and how much I'm spending time with her. So it was something that obviously there's sacrifice that is being made with time being away from that, being away from her. But it's that big picture of what FFL is going to bring for the future that makes it 100% worth it. So it's sacrifice. Now, I've heard it said, all pleasure comes at a price of pain, right? For true pleasure, the price is before. For false pleasure, the price is after. So if you want something that is going to be pleasurable, right, which is integrity, right, which is a passive income override bonus, you got to make a sacrifice. And I'm making the sacrifice before, versus working that 9 to 5, getting the weekends off and getting those paid time off, and not working on holidays, but having to work till 60, 65. I've heard it said too, is from a Shark Tank, the girl on Shark Tank, she's like, I work 80 now, so I don't have to work 40 in the future. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sacrificing now. And I think I've been hopefully very clear in communicating it to her, but the sacrifice that what that means with time investment, and just utilizing my additional time with quality from there.
Got it. So you basically cast a vision with her and got her on board and had her understand the time that you did have and what it meant.
Right.
Okay. So obviously the comp was different, and that attracted you to FFL. So when you got in and started kicking the tires, what are some of the first things that jumped out at you that you were like, oh my God, this really is gonna work. Like I can do this, and I can plug into this, and this is gonna help me. What were some of those things that kind of opened your eyes, that you took advantage of, that helped you go from what you knew about insurance to what you know now when you recruit and sell it to other people?
Right. So I think one of the biggest things, when I started FFL, I had my biggest week at the company before. I did like $11,000 of business, and I had my full-time pay, and I had my like another compensation for like a manager type of thing. And I got that deposit at the same time I got my advance deposit for my first sale on the same day. And basically a week that I drove in like an hour, I got like a $7,000 lawn care sale, which was like one of the biggest in the region, which was irregular. In addition to that too, I got I just grinded and put in the hours to surpass 10,000. The commission from that, the base pay, and the another pay that they gave me in a bunch above like an extra $100 a week, whatever. That deposit was about $100 less than about an hour with my first Americo Eagle Premier policy. So 1 hour deposit, advance deposit. So obviously I know you have the advance deposit versus the full 12 months. And obviously you have taxes and different things taken out over here. That deposit was $100 less from a full week of grinding, of base pay, of commission, of everything. So that was one thing that was like just mind blowing to me, as far as like what we can make in an hour here. And obviously it's like, you don't look at the hourly, you look at the overall picture of what it takes for you to get to that hour. But I think a couple things from coming into this company, first off, was I had a really bad experience with this other company, especially if I'm newly married. I barely made my money back. I paid for the course, for the exam course, and I made my money back for that. And basically when I came in, I was very thorough with FFL before jumping in FFL. because I remember meeting Ivan with Caleb and myself. We drove over there, met Ivan. I was asking him a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, one question I'm going to ask. I know you're saying 100%. What's the lowest comp you'll pay out? Whereas before I was like 45, I'll take you at your word, right? But obviously that didn't happen. And then obviously you mentioned AIG 50% or whatever from there. So it was that transparency that was portrayed from Ivan with me asking questions that there was no beating around the bush. And Ivan was just as direct as ever with answering my questions that left a really good taste in my mouth of understanding, hey, like this guy's transparent, which is huge, which speaks volumes. So I think one thing from there was that conversation, but in addition, just being able to like look up FFL, right? And seeing all the videos and all the training, all the articles, all the stuff, and being able to assess and make an analyzed decision. There was just so much data to be able to make a decision, understanding, hey, this is a great company. I got to work, right? But this is a great company, right? So I think coming in, those were a couple of things I was able to see, the transparency of everything just across the board versus where I was at the other insurance company. I would ask guys questions and they would just beat around the bush. And there was like no straightforward answers. I got straightforward answers right off the bat here. And from there, I remember my first appointment I ran. I was still working my other job, and I went and I bombed it. It was really, really, really bad. She actually gave me constructive criticism walking out the door. She's like, first off, don't say God forbid so many times. So I was like, okay. She's like, second off, you don't have to be nervous about talking about death. We understand this is going to happen. It was pretty embarrassing. So I remember walking out of the house and I was like, I have too many things on my plate. And so I called up my boss at my full-time job. I'm like, hey, I need to clear my plate. So I made the move to go into full-time at that point in time because of me understanding, hey, I'm not 100% in. And I know this works because because I've seen it, right? I've seen bank statements. I've seen different people post numbers. I've seen the videos. I know this works, right? So let me make it work. But I can't make it work when I'm having somebody else, a manager, call me up, hey, like, what's your numbers over here? What's your numbers over here? Where I'm like, you know what, this is 100% where my focus needs to be moving forward. So I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but I mean, there's a couple of things that kind of stood up for me, just the opportunity within itself. And again, the ability to progress and move forward.
Yeah. And then once you got here, how did you mentioned she gave you constructive criticism. What did you use to go from appointment number one to where you are now, where you're obviously building your own team and training your own agents, or helping train your own agents as they come in? I know you guys have a well-oiled machine, but what are some of the things that you kind of gravitated to that you utilized that somebody else might be overlooking to help shorten that learning curve?
Right. I think a couple things is when you look at in sales in general, the term role playing, right? I think that is a very effective tool. I have a brother-in-law that's in sales, and I remember when I was doing my door-to-door the lawn care selling, we would jump on calls all the time, and he would give me the most random objections like in the world, and it would be like and it would catch me randomly, so I would be able to help navigate around those. So I think one thing I would say that helped me was structure, right? Structure of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what my phone call needs to look like. I need to identify, I need to educate, I need to find the time, I need to tie down. And then what in more detail does that look like? So identifying what I want this conversation to look like and then structuring it. I think with the same thing with the in-home was the reason why it was as bad as it was is because I didn't identify those certain points, those different bullet points I needed to hit in the conversation. And so I was just going with the flow with a lot of it, and obviously put me in a position to not effectively communicate the objective of the goal of the application or the other of the appointment, the application, right? So I think there was one thing I would say is the accessibility of training here is amazing, right? I mean, I've called you, right? I called everybody out there, right? the fact of me being proactive within a conversation like that is something that you have to incorporate, because there's so many people out there that can help you, but they will help you upon your initiating. I called Ivan up once and I like apologized to him. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I keep calling you. And he said to me, he's like, Sam, he's like, the people that are calling me are the people that are doing things. Now that I'm working with people, I have identified that people that are calling me are the people that I want to spend more time with. So it was one of those things that I was proactive. If I'm going through a rut, if I need to think about it over and over and over again. And I'm watching all the training and I'm incorporating different things and I can't get around it. There was 4 different people I could call up and talk to that are doing good. And then kind of pick and choose. I like this. I like this. You know what? I think you're right. I called up Ivan many a times and he'd be like, Sam, he's like, I can hear it in your voice. You're desperate right now. And I was like, you're right. So slow down, talk, lower tonality, just sit down and help them out. And so having those conversations and having that ability, but more importantly, identifying that that's even there. People are here to help you out and you have to utilize that. Because if you don't, you're going to keep shooting yourself in the foot, right? I've done it many, many times. I'm like, I'll just figure this out. I'll go research my own thing and try to figure it out. Whereas there's people that are much further down the line for me that I could reach out to be able to help me understand this is where I need to tweak. This is what I need to do to become more effective within moving forward. And it's a continuous stride, continuous growth. I'm always looking to grow, right? Because you said it, I think at convention, Wayne, is master your craft. Like I want to master my craft. I want to get to a point that I've researched and become so knowledgeable in this industry that it's a step-by-step process and it's understood for me. This is what it takes for me to succeed. This is what it takes for me to become more effective within a conversation and identify, be more productive with my time, right? So I think one thing I would say in regards to that question you just asked is that there's an amazing support structure. And I think one thing that I learned right off the bat is by utilizing Ivan is utilize it. Like, don't try to figure this out on your own. If you try to figure this out on your own, you can make it happen, but you just make it happen much more at a faster rate by utilizing those people that can make it happen, that have made it happen already. Right.
Yeah, 100%. I think the support system is one thing that most agents, when they start with this, kind of overlook, and kind of feel like you did, I guess, in the beginning, based on what you just said, I feel like they're bothering somebody. When, just like you just said, if you're not bothering us, then we just think that you're not working, in most cases. I mean, there's some cases where obviously we can see the remnants of your work, but for the most part, if you're not asking questions, especially when you start, even as robust as the system is, then it's kind of it kind of goes without saying that you may have kind of fallen off or not as engaged as you should be to get started, because this is your career. And if you don't take control of that process, then it's not really gonna go the way you envisioned it when you came here, and you'll have nobody to blame but yourself. So you talked about your structure, and you said you have your phone basically down to a 5-step process.
4 steps. Yeah.
4 steps, 4 ingredients that you have to have. What are those again? And then just kind of walk us through what that sounds like in an actual call.
Right. So there's 4 points that I'm trying to hit on within a conversation. I would say number 1 is I'm trying to recall. I'm trying to identify this person. First off, is this the right person I'm speaking to? Do they remember filling out this form? Do they not? I don't really care if they remember or if they don't remember filling it out. If they do remember, great, perfect. And then just switch over to the next point. If they don't remember filling it out, That's perfectly fine, right? I throw it right back at them. Like, it's okay that you don't remember filling this out. Purpose of my phone call, right? Next point is educate, kind of educate them in that short-term goals. What does the conversation look like? So that transition phrase is basically, my job is super simple. And to confirm the information that we have on file, make sure it's correct, and find a good time that our field underwriter can get out there to present you with your mortgage protection options, with your final expense options, whatever that looks like moving forward. So I'm creating the structure of the phone call. And then basically during the educating through the projecting, I'm collecting that information. Next is the find the time. I am very thorough with finding the time, because if I'm going to drive to somebody's house and I'm going to go and knock on their door, and I just drove 30 minutes there and I have 30 minutes to the next person, they better be there, right? So I would rather have somebody double booked in an area that I know these people will be home for the rest of the night than trying to squeeze them in with something and my schedule be off a little bit and then they not be there, or there's a possibility that they're not going to be there. So I'm very thorough with finding the time. He's going to be on the area tomorrow and Saturday, meeting with a couple different people. All right, tomorrow, Friday, are you working or are you retired? Working. Okay. What time generally do you get home from work? 5 o'clock. Okay. Is there any reason that you would not be home at 5:30? No. Okay, perfect. Sam will be there at 5:30, and he'll meet with a couple different people. And I'm asking these questions, not open-ended, right? I'm not saying, does 5:30 work for you? No, I'm very direct with, this is my schedule. I got a 5:30 or 6:45. Which time works better for you, right? So I'm finding the time. Once they've identified and once they've agreed to a time, then I'm going to the last section, which is basically tying down, which is, grab a pen and paper. I'm going to give you a confirmation code for security purposes. Let me know when you're ready, right? So each phrase, each section of the phone call has a different transition phrase. So obviously, hey, Wayne, I'm giving you a call here. I'm getting back to you about the forms that you've been receiving here for mortgage protection at your house, 123 Main Street. Do you remember filling out those forms? Yes, perfect. My job is super simple. My job is to confirm the information that we have on this form or on file, make sure it's correct, find a good time that our field underwriter can get out there, confirm the information. I'm looking at our field underwriter schedule. He's going to be out in the area tomorrow and Saturday, meeting with a couple different people. Tomorrow, Friday, right? And so that's my transition phrase. And then lastly, Wayne, can you grab a pen and paper for me? I'm going to give you a confirmation code for security purposes. Let me know when you're ready. So each phrase, my job is super simple. I'm looking at our field underwriter schedule. Wayne, can you grab a pen and piece of paper for me? Being able to structure, I'm someone that when I get very wordy, I tend to feel like it's kind of like a little bit laborious. It's kind of like a little bit boring, right? So if I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again, versus me, I like more just sectional, kind of identifying different bullet points and know those transition phrases, right? Because if somebody's going to give me an objection, I acknowledge the objection, I roll right over it, and I know where to jump back in, and because I know where I've left off. So that's kind of a little bit about my phone script and kind of what I do moving forward.
Now, I noticed when you were going through it, you said he and Sam's going to be out there. Do you always book your appointments in third person?
I do. I do. I am very, I answer everybody's questions, and I want to answer everybody's questions. So sometimes I can go into great detail explaining broker, and I work with 15 plus different companies, and I work with Family First Life. And so when I was dialing in first person, I would answer all of their questions. And when I answer a question, just who I am, I'm very thorough, and I try to be as effective with my answer. So I might spend a little bit more time with an answer. And I remember getting to some calls where I'm on the call for 10 minutes because I'm building so much and I'm filtering these people so much that I get to the way end. They're like, you know what? Just forget about it. Let's not do it. And I'm like, no, you have to do this, right? No, but I'm like, I just invested all this time in this conversation. I've answered all their questions. I've given them what they wanted. And now at this point, they have something to think about now, right? Versus third person, I was able to deflect a lot of those key questions. Sam, ballpark, roughly, how much does this cost? Great question, Wayne. I just work with a schedule of Sam. Sam's a broker. He works with 15 plus different companies. He collects information, assesses your scenario, finds the best option moving forward from there. Sam would be way more equipped to be able to answer that question more productively. Again, I'm looking at a schedule. He's going to be back down the area tomorrow, Friday. Are you working tomorrow? Are you working from home? Working from the office? So I deflect their questions in third person. It's just easier for me to be able to deflect their questions that way as well too. Even when they call back up and try to cancel the appointment, they just called the scheduler. They didn't call me. So when I go show up at their house, I'm sorry, I don't like to be on my phone while I'm on the road. I didn't know you called and canceled. I mean, I'm here. All right. Shoes off, on, would you prefer? Right. So, I mean, when I'm dialing third person, that's my philosophy. But the thing is, and I was listening to a training call the other day with Rob Richmond, and I'm listening with Chris Cazares as well too. So funny that this business is, there's not one way to get a point B. You have Rob Richmond over here. He's talking about how he did like 800,000 plus last year. Talking about how he would go to the gym and go to the next person's house in his shorts and his t-shirt. And then you have Chris Cazares over here, right? Dressing up in a suit and tie and a handkerchief. And they both did over $800,000. But Rob is over here talking about, I want to make it seem like I'm down to earth with these people. Whereas Chris is over here, I want to make it seem like I'm their financial advisor. These guys are both very, very successful. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple ways to get to point B. That's just my philosophy within the third person dialing there, just to kind of deflect, and just because of who I am. But you have Ryan Kosky, you have different guys that dial in first person that are very effective within dialing in first person. So it's assessing what works for you and being able to test it long enough to gauge, does this work or does this not work?
Yeah. No, it's 100% about making it comfortable for you. And I mean, I do it in third person too, just because it just gives you a lot of, it gives you more wiggle room when it comes to objections and rebuttals. It's just easier to remove yourself from the equation. And I kind of do the same thing in the house by putting it all back on the insurance company and me just really being a conduit to help insurance companies keep their costs down so they don't have to hire a sales force, if you will. So, well, speaking of in-home, last thing, and then we'll open it up to any questions. What do you do? We had Borsch on, I think a couple weeks ago. We went through his in-home A to Z. What do you do differently in the house that you've kind of tweaked from everything that you've heard over the last year and a half that you've been here? What do you do differently in the house than you think anybody else might do that somebody can take and say, oh, I haven't heard that before?
So one thing that I would do is, because of who I am, I'm a protagonist on a personality test. So I'm very relationship oriented. So when it comes down to relationships, I like to invest very thoroughly into a conversation. And I know I've said this before in objection rebuttals calls, and it's reiteration from different conversations I've had. But basically, I would get to a lot of appointments where I didn't correctly set the picture of the application, the request for coverage. They have to accept you. We're going to do that today. Is there any reason we can't do that today? I didn't spend enough time being able to identify that in the beginning of the conversation that we get to so many people at the end that they would be like, I want to think about it. And it was very, very, very frustrating for me because I've just invested so much with the financial inventory sheet, giving them so much information because I'm informationally based sales. So I want to give them information to help them make an educated decision to get to the way end. And they're like, I need to think about it. No, we can't think about it, right? We have to submit the application. Yeah, no, I completely understand, but give me your card, right? And I'm going to give you a call back. And we'll go and walk through options here. I can call Friday or whatever. And I was like, it was so frustrating for me walking away from those people, having invested all this emotional energy into this conversation to get to the point that I made $0 and I just missed I'm late to my next one, right? Or I missed the opportunity to dial, book more appointments or door knock or whatever, because I just invested an hour and a half or an hour. And I spend a lot of time with some of my appointments into a conversation. So I was listening to a training call one of these days, and it was basically a lady talking about asking the question, it's 3 objectives, right? Comfortable, affordable, see if you qualify. Wayne, we go through this whole conversation and we look at options today, and you look at the option and you say, I'm comfortable with this option. It's affordable to me on a monthly basis. Would there be any reason that you would not want to submit an application to see if you would qualify if it was comfortable and it was affordable? Sit back and wait. That question has saved me so much time, but experience has saved me so much time, because I can ask that question the way beginning and somebody can give me a yes. There's no reason I would not submit an application, but I could tell now with my experience and being able to sit down with hundreds of people that the way they're answering that question is that's not a truthful answer. So being able to dig a little bit deeper and kind of dig a little bit deeper to identify, is this someone I want to sit down with and spend my time trying to help or not, right? And so, like, it goes back to, I've said this before, and when you've heard it, is I read the book Way of the Wolf, right? Really, really good sales book. When you're looking through the structural kind of what you're identifying, how can you communicate more effectively to be able to convert to a sale, right? And he was talking about one of the times in the story, he was sitting down at his desk, a brand new recruit agent was sitting across the desk from him. And he's like, hey, sell me this pen, right? And the guy was like, this is the best pen on the market right now. The balance in the back to the front, right? The way that the ink leaves the tip of the pen to be able to clash with the paper. It's a beautiful mixture to make your writing just that much more distinct. Right now, we're having a deal that you can buy this pen. Typically, it's $10. I will sell this to you right now for $4. What do you say? And Jordan Belfort was like, I'm not interested. And he's like, well, okay, so let's do, I can do right this. If you do in the next 2 minutes, I can do it for $3. No, I'm not interested. And another guy, a veteran guy, walked in from the office as well. He took the pen back and he threw it at the other guy. And he's like, sell me the pen. First question he asked, hey, so tell me, Jordan, how long have you been in the market for a pen? Mm-hmm. And Jordan was like, I'm not in the market for a pen. Then he grabbed the pen. The veteran guy threw it right back at Jordan. He's like, well, I'm not interested in selling you a pen. I'll leave it up to this guy. Because you can waste a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy sitting in front of the wrong people and trying to convince them of something that there's no convincing. Does that mean anybody that doesn't have any idea why you're out there, don't try to build value and create understanding and create intention? No, there's been a ton of people I've showed up and they have no idea why I'm there, no idea what I'm there to do. And I get a sale because I built value and help them understand exactly how this correlates and supplies and fits their needs to create really the peace of mind that they're looking for. But as time progresses and as you continue to have conversations with different managers, different people more experienced, you can be able to identify what are those questions and how am I trying to find and identify this is the person I need to spend more time with or not. And that was one of the questions I've incorporated to be able to identify, is this someone that if I go through this whole process, are they going to make a move? Are they going to be productive with their time, my time, or are they not, right? And if I get a yes or I get a no, I'll even spend a little bit more time. I'll kind of gauge a person. But really the biggest thing that I would say is from where I'm at versus where I'm at now is I've sat down with a ton of people. So I've sat down with a ton of people. You just, what does that Paul McLean talk about? He's like, I've been at this for like 10 years or something like that. And he's like, people always ask me, why am I training so good? He's like, if you've been doing this for as long as I have and you're not a good trainer, he's like, better take me out behind the woodshed and do away with me, right? because you just do so much of it. You're just, you know what? This is better. This is how it can be more productive. This is the thing I can tweak to become a little bit more effective within my conversation, right? So what I would just say is, again, I've heard it, I was listening to a book, Jim Rohn here recently, and the same thing that Trey Honeycutt, all these other guys are saying, make up in numbers what you lack in skill. Numbers will eventually equate into developed skill, as long as you're productive and you're identifying from those conversations.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. So we got a few more minutes left. That's all the questions I have. Plus I can call you whenever I feel like it. So I'm going to open it up to anybody else on the call that might have some questions for you. So just unmute yourself and then fire away.
I got a question. Sam, you mentioned the Wolf of Wall Street book and Jim Rohn. Do you have any other kind of mentors outside of this industry that you lean on for some information, just general like sales information? Because those two guys, they're monsters. They give awesome info.
Right. I think within the sales process, Jordan Belfort has definitely helped with identification of how I'm supposed to communicate. How do you become more effective? Because what is sales, right? You look at it and everybody has like a bad perception of sales, right? Everybody's trying to sell me something I don't want. Sales is really, it's communication. You being able to communicate a concept, communicate an idea, communicate value. If you can communicate the same idea 5-6 times, you are just that much more effective within sales, right? So I think within Jordan Belfort, really where he's come and interpret into my sales process is identifying scripts, identifying tonality, body language, positioning yourself to become more effective within a conversation and to identify and just in general become more effective. So I feel like Jordan Belfort has been a huge asset for training. I've also read Ultimate Sales Machine. That was a decent book as well too. Grant Cardone, I've watched a bunch of his stuff. But I think within the FFL structure, you have Matt Smith, very capable trainer. A lot of good videos out there to be able to incorporate. I would say in addition to that, I obviously when you look at Sean Ruggiero, just there's multiple people within FFL that are just veteran seasoned trainers. Outside of FFL, definitely Jordan Belfort. I would even say Grant Cardone has kind of been a little bit, obviously I've read different books from Tony Robbins, just more kind of mindset, because it really is your own business. So your mindset is the most important aspect because it's all self-motivation. It's continuously being consistent, calloused, to continuous doing the same thing over and over again. But another really good book, a really good sales book I've read is Go Give or Sell More by, I forgot the guy's name. Go Give or Sell More. Really good book. Basically asking the questions, identifying who you're with, and basically your sales process would be more asking questions than giving information out, right? Yes, I have like an information-based sales. So I do give a lot of information because I want people to understand, hey, where can I make the most educated decision? So if somebody comes after me, I want them to know and have a good understanding of how the market works to a general sense. Obviously, they can't know it to the extent that I know it. But at the same time, I'm asking a lot of questions because I want to figure out exactly how can I best help them. That's what your sales process should be, a lot of questions. From there, Go Give Her Summer is a really good book. Amanda texted in the group chat. She actually texted me here. What was the comfortable, affordable question again? I asked the question. So I say there's 3 objectives for this conversation. Comfortable, affordable, see if you qualify. It doesn't make sense for me to present you with something that's not one of these 3. Now, Wayne, if we go through this process, you look at an option and you say, this is comfortable, this is affordable. Would there be any reason you would not want to submit an application, a request for coverage to see if you would qualify today if it was comfortable and it was affordable? I mean, from there, as obviously we can't Sean Ruggiero says it, comfortable, affordable, see if you qualify. It doesn't make sense for me to present you with something that's not one of those. But in order for us to be able to hit these objectives, there is action that's required by us today. And that's an application. That's a request for coverage, because you got to put the ball back in their court, as Wayne said, deflecting it. They have to accept you. I'm just a mediator. I don't make the decisions. They make the decisions. In order for us to be productive within this conversation, really, we have to submit an application. And this all goes back to Jordan Belfort talking about your tonality, your body language, and your words, the three ways we communicate. Your words only make up 10% of the way we communicate. Body language, 45, tonality, 45. I've gotten to a position that if somebody gives me, I need to think about it, or asking this uncomfortable question, to be able to script my words and say the same thing every single time, so that I can focus on my tonality, I can focus on my body language. How am I sitting? Am I looking them in the eyes, right? How am I emphasizing in different areas to be able to make this question that much more effective, right? And that's more of an advanced sales process, right? That's more of advanced communication. But at the end of the day, it's how can I become more effective with my time? Master your craft, educate yourself in the industry and on the process.
So Sam, going back to what you were just talking about, the finding something comfortable, affordable, see if you qualify. How do you bow out gracefully if someone says, I just don't ever buy on the first date? What do you do to get out of the home?
Yeah, well, first off, I would say I'm not asking you to commit today. I'm not asking you to buy today. I'm asking you to be productive with your time and my time, because I can show you numbers all day, but the numbers are only your numbers if they accept you for those numbers. So unless we submit an application, which I have to be here, and obviously different things with the simplified issue, I have to identify your identification, right? The witness your signature. I got to be here. So because I'm here, I want to help you out, right? I want to find something that's comfortable, affordable, but most importantly, if we don't get accepted, it's not on the table. So we can look at options all day that you're like, I love it. I absolutely love this option. I don't make decisions on the spot. Let me think about it. Perfectly fine. I understand you need to think about it. They got to think about you first. Now, if they think about you and they say, hey, you're approved, number one, they will start it. It's perfectly fine, because we're taking an actionable step to see if we can get approved. But if you do get approved, they will start it. But you have 30 days to be able to say, okay, hey, I want more, I want less, or I want to go a different direction. It's perfectly fine. You can adjust that step. But most importantly, it's identifying whether or not you can take that step in the first place. That's what an application does. It's productiveness, your time, my time, to make sure we're doing the best for your family, for moving forward, what that looks like for you. Obviously, if it's not comfortable, if it's not affordable, we will not submit an application. But if it's comfortable and affordable, next step, understood wise, application, see if we can land, see if they will accept you. And if they say, yeah, I'm not going to do an application. So you understand the application is identifying whether or not you can make a decision in the first place, right? So you're not wanting to go that direction. You're not wanting to see if this is something that you can get approved for, accepted for. No. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry for the miscommunication getting to this point. Have a great day. Packing up my stuff and I'm leaving. Because if I'm going through and I'm asking the same question multiple ways and they're telling me, no, I'm not going to submit an application, there's no point in me spending more time investing into this conversation for them. But over time, I've gotten better at asking that question, not as direct, because you can be very direct with those questions and scare them off. And they'll be like, let's just wait on that. And I'll be like, oh, okay, sure. And I get to the end, they're like, yeah, we're going to think about it. Right. So over time, you'll get better at asking those questions and asking those questions a little bit like softer versus we're submitting the application. Obviously, I give them the way out. If it's not comfortable, if it's not affordable, we won't submit the application. I'll be on my way. I've done my job, right? And so I give them a way out, but I always come back. Look, this is what we're trying to do today. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to do this?